Ladies and gentlemen, making his way to the mic, hailing from just outside Philadelphia, the can't miss speculist, Big Paws on a Pup, J.P.Q.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of No Particular Angle. I'm your host, Big Paws on a Pup, JPQ. We're going to go Stardom this week. We have to go Stardom this week. A lot of news coming out of the world of Japan. There's rumors, there's speculation. This is a rumor and speculation type of show. This is almost a Stardom podcast at this point, and there's a lot of different newsworthy topics to talk about. And if I'm going to jump into this 2 feet, I feel it's only right to bring on somebody that I bounce off ideas constantly. My friend JD from the RedLeaf Retrocast. JD, how you doing, brother?
It's a nice little late Tuesday night coming off of more NWA power.
Yeah, I think that's 4 R's. I think there's only 3.
I gotta get my pronunciation down. I don't speak English, so yeah, it's tough.
It's the accent, right? That's what we're on.
I don't speak Kentucky
yet.
More NWA power will get me to speak more Kentucky.
That's 2 R's. You're dialing it in, but you're close.
Damn
it. But I brought you on, and I'm glad that you were able to come on short notice, because there's a lot of information. And typically on these shows, I'll go 45 minutes, no doubt about it. But there's so much nuance to everything that's kind of happening in Japan. And let's be honest, we don't really know 100% at this time of recording what's exactly coming down the pike. But
I've been losing my mind the past couple of days over all this news.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And me being an Ice Ribbon fan, I'm like all losing my mind.
Let's start there. There was an announcement made from Rossi Ogawa, the founder, the head chief.
Whoa! You're being way too nice. The cutthroat businessman, the unethical demon that is Rossi.
We're going to get there.
Okay.
we're going
too
to get
soon?
There. No, it's never too soon. But it's true. We got an announcement from him that one of your faves, somebody that you have brought me in on, the secret of this wrestler. You came down to just outside Philadelphia a little over a week ago, and we were talking about this wrestler, and you were liking her to Tommy in Stardom. JD, Julia from Ice Ribbon has signed with Stardom. Right off the bat, man, what are your thoughts?
Man, this really took me aback, because I had just watched Ice Ribbon 994. We watched Ice Ribbon 992. Both shows took place in Yokohama.
Mm-hmm.
We watched the one where Burning Raw, the team of Takiya Saya and what seems to be, from an outside perspective, super close friend Julia.
Yeah.
Like ridiculously close, because Julia came up through the Ice Ribbon dojo, I believe, if I have my facts straight.
I believe that to be true.
And she's a little over a year or two since her debut. And Takiya Saya is, just a little backstory for the listeners, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Takiya Saya is only 3 years into her wrestling career, and she has a massive fan base behind her.
Yeah.
So much so that she opened up a bar next to where Ice Ribbon does a lot of their shows, and it's called the Peace Bar. Hence Peace Party. These little tiny micro shows that they do to train up and coming stars, right? Get them in with some veterans. Great idea. And then afterwards they go hang out at her bar. Well, and I've been finding out a lot more knowledge on this, just deep diving into what other people have written, and a lot more fans over the Joshi scene than I even expected, including to Ice Ribbon. I always thought everyone was like with Sendai or Stardom. Ice Ribbon doesn't get a lot of buzz, let's say.
Yeah.
Well, turns out Takiya Saya from the very beginning was going to retire after 3 years. Why? I don't know. Was not able to find that information out. It was just part of her plan from the start, and whether people, plans change or your feelings change over a certain period of time. Well, she stuck to her guns, and unfortunately, this typhoon happened, and what was supposed to be her retirement show just this past Monday was postponed. Well, whether this official news took everyone aback, it seems that Ice Ribbon itself and the major personnel involved all knew this was to happen. Well, Julia, being a young, just future star, I've compared her to Utami. I discovered her just this year because she's been running up the card, right? I was like, how do I pronounce her name? It's like Giu. Is it Giulia? I'm pretty sure it's Julia.
Julia,
I'm like,
Julia.
Yeah, I'm like listening to the announcer say her name, and she had an amazing singles match against Maya Yukihi, and then formed the tag team with Takiya Saya. So my theory is Julia really took it. This is just a theory, spitballing, right?
Yeah.
That Julia really took the retirement of Takiya Saya, one of her, I can assume, closest friends in the promotion. And Ice Ribbon's a tight group, right?
Yep.
So she's gonna lose her closest friend in the promotion, and she's young, and someone approached her with an offer you can't refuse. And that person was undoubtedly Rossi, someone representing him. And she immediately, the day of the Korakuen Hall show, asked for her release from Ice Ribbon. Ice Ribbon totally taken aback. Like, if you look on the Ice Ribbon feed of their site, Yappy, who also functions as like a translator of sorts, English news person. Anyways, no one knew anything. The wrestlers didn't know anything, and according to Ice Ribbon, they wanted to at least work something out, like finish out your dates. It sounded like that they were going to grant her release.
Right.
Well, the show of Takiya's retirement was postponed or canceled. It's going to happen, just don't know when yet. And Julia just assumed that, okay, that was the last show, I guess, and the release is done and over with. Well, lo and behold, at the end of the Korakuen Hall show in Stardom, whom comes out after the main event ends? Julia.
And
Whoa.
Joshi Twitter falls apart right after that. Right? And that's where it starts, and that's the part that's kind of crazy to me, is there was no farewell, right? There was no send off from Ice Ribbon. It was, and I liken this a lot to, I chalk a lot of this up to Julia being so green, right? And Rossi taking full advantage of somebody brand new by telling her to come to Stardom after, what would have been Tequila's last match, her retirement match, and for this big announcement, right? And when that show doesn't happen, he saw an opportunity to make a wave, and he jumped all over it, and he took Julia, who, again, not seasoned in the politics of Joshi wrestling, or however you want to phrase this.
You can just say wrestling in general. It's an old territory tactic.
It kind of is, right? Like, they lose, you wrestle your last show in one day, then you show up at the new promotion on the next. But we didn't even get a goodbye, and it's just boom, she's there. And so again, as a Stardom fan, I'm marking out, right? This is one of the few Joshi wrestlers that I've really taken an interest in outside of Stardom. So huge signing for Stardom, huge signing for Rossi, and this seems to be a calculated effort by Rossi over the course of the year. You put out a great tweet earlier this week. Might have been as early as, it might have been today. I think it might have been yesterday. talking about all the signings in Stardom over the course of the year. We have been very positive since Kyrie left, since Io left, on them really focusing in on building the talent of the future, the Hazukis, the Konamis, what Momo's been able to do and rise up the ranks of Queen's Quest. We know what Utami Hayashishida will be and what she is currently. There's a lot of traction behind Azumi right now as she kind of gets her legs underneath of her on the main roster. Starlight Kid obviously is a fan favorite. Like all these young, wrestlers that they're bringing up, and then you have your kind of stalwarts, right? You have your Kagetsu, you have your Mayu, you have your Jungles, and we're sitting here saying they're going to be fine, right? We're excited for what the roster is going to be, top to bottom, the parity, the best roster put together, top to bottom in all of professional wrestling. This is how you build stars. This is how you build a roster. This is how you get people invested in what you're doing. And then they go and they start signing people away, right? And it starts with Hana, which not the biggest surprise, right? She did a tour last year as part of Oedo Tai. Her mother, Kyoko, started Oedo Tai in Stardom. She was a freelancer working in Wave, Wrestle One, coming over and running tours in Stardom. So for her to sign, not the most surprising, right? But then we have Andras Miyagi, and she comes from Sendai Girls, and that's a big signing. And they kind of alluded to the fact that they were bringing somebody new in, right? We knew that there was going to be a signing. We didn't know who it was going to be. Was it going to be Azumi? Was it going to be Tom moving over to Oedo Tai? Remember, they kind of presented this as a new Oedo Tai member. We didn't exactly know if it was current roster or somebody new coming in and how it was all going to play out. And then we get Andras Miyagi making her debut. Now, here's what's interesting about that. There used to be a little partnership between Sendai and Stardom, and we used to see a little crossover from time to time. Well, ever since Andras Miyagi left, we haven't seen a lot of that, right? You go onto Twitter and so was it as clean? Yes, Miyagi got a send-off, right? She got a farewell show. But if you go and you search and you overanalyze these things, it's not like any of the Sendai girls are following Andras Miyagi anymore on social media. Not like there's playful banters back and forth because they used to work together. It almost seems as if there was a bad breakup. And then from a promotion standpoint, you're not seeing the partnership that was once there between Meiko Satomura and Rasi Agawa. And so was it as clean of a break as one would suspect? So there's that narrative that's kind of out there in the ether of Stardom. Now you have then you have Riho, right? Riho gets signed from Gato. I always get it wrong. Is it Gato Move Pro?
Gato Move.
Thank you. And she comes in and she's a lot of hype around her in AEW and Emi Sakura making a name for herself there as well. And the showcases on Double or Nothing. And then Riho kind of doing what she's doing stateside. And then Rossi coming in over the top and taking her away from Gato. Taken away from Emmy, and now she's their, high-speed champion, and seems as if she's pretty, they've established her pretty quick, right? Like she came in, she won the title, and she's been wrestling through the 5-star Grand Prix in the undercard. She just had a rematch with Death for the high-speed title, and it seems as if, I don't know if it's 100% yet that she's gonna be part of Stars, but she's probably gonna be part of Stars if she's not already. She's gonna,
Stars.
Yeah, she's part of Stars. She's gonna be supplanted as someone to look forward to as she progresses through her career within Stardom. And now over the top of that, we now have Julia coming in from Ice Ribbon. So we have 4 wrestlers being signed on top of what this roster already is and how much you and I have gushed over the parity in this roster and building new stars and all this type of stuff. We have 4 signees coming in from different Joshi wrestling promotions in Japan and Thailand. Why do you think Rossi's doing this?
You can't also forget about the move of making Pete Priestley full-time and
Good point.
And the prospect of trying to make Jamie Hayter full-time, arguably the best female UK talent that NXT UK hasn't picked up.
That's a salient point by you, JD. You have B, who people, because she's from the UK, people associate her with the UK, but she is full. She lives in Japan. She really is a Stardom worker who then travels to other promotions. But her home base is Stardom, in my opinion. And then you have Jamie Hayter, who's just came back to do an extended run with them outside of the Eve promotion as well. That's a perfect point. So even on the Gaijin side, you have two highly acclaimed wrestlers that are now part of this roster, which seems like for the foreseeable future, for full-time status, right?
Yeah, it just seems like Jamie Hayter, from what I've read, is going through some visa issues to become full-time, but that's the idea. So that would make 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 signees just in the last calendar year. And one could correlate this to losing Io Shirai. As soon as Io Shirai left, it's almost like it lit a fire underneath Stardom. I go, shit, we just lost two of our greatest talents to a bigger promotion. We gotta stop letting this happen. We have to get some of these before the others get them. Because I guarantee Hikaru Shida was on his list, if not for AEW getting her first.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think you're probably right with that. Because that's a name worth going out and trying to get. But what's interesting is, and maybe it was a bridge, maybe it was a stopgap. Maybe Momo establishing her as the new ace, taking over for Io in the interim, building the white belt, taking over her defense title record. Maybe all that was just buying him some time to kind of bring in new talent. I don't know, and again, I'm certainly not going to sit here and say that Julia should be in the main event picture right off the bat. I mean, she's so green. But it's a big splash, right? There's excitement around a new signing in Stardom, and looking out over the landscape of just the Joshi side of wrestling within Japan, you could make the case that Stardom is the number one Joshi promotion because streaming services, partnerships globally, cash and attendance, the way they run their shows, the talent that they have. You can make the case, and it's a good case to make. It's a good argument, But then you sign just stud after stud after stud after stud, potential after potential after potential, different styles, different looks, right? Like you've increased your high speed with Riho, your main event with Hana, your size with Miyagi, and now your rookie, your potential with Julia, and then you're bringing in the UK market as well with B and Jamie, and it just seems like these
gotta have your Gaijins.
Gotta have your Gaijins.
Knows that well.
Yeah, you need people to get booed, and so they're making all these moves, And I guess my question to you, and I got my own thoughts on it, but I'll let you go first. Why? Why is Stardom being so aggressive in who they're signing? Number one, and number two, where do you think Stardom? If you could get into the mind of Rossi, where do you think that he thinks Stardom is headed with regards to? The promotion as a whole over the next 3 to 5 years, 1 to 3 years timeline.
I think he wants to bring back essentially All Japan women, right? All Japan Wrestling, AJW. That's where he stems from, and I myself am going back and watching a lot of the classics. I cover it on my own podcast. And it's no secret that the Joshi scene in today compared to yesteryear is spread so thin. All the talent, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have those wrestlers that can draw and make up your mid card, right, to build to the main event, whether it's future or past, you're not going to draw those big crowds. What did All Japan Women do in the 80s and 90s? They drew big ass crowds. They filled the Tokyo Dome. What are these Joshi promotions doing today? They can barely fill Korakuen Hall. Right?
Right.
On a good day, they might fill it up. What would you say? 75% tops?
If that, I mean, you're talking what? It holds about 700 to 1,000 people. A good show would be 400 to 500 people.
Yeah. So like Ice Ribbon, there are Joshi promotions out there, Ice Ribbon in particular, they pull like 1,500 in for their Yokohama shows. They got their fan base. They can. But they're not doing it every show.
No.
Right? All Japan Women would do it every show. Thousands of people. So Rossi, I truly believe his vision is to bring that back. He wants that fan base back. And what would be step one is to not have the wrestlers themselves be spread so thin. There are so many promotions out there. Just in Tokyo alone, you could go out on a weekend and you could flip or not flip, but you could roll a 20-sided die and put a promotion on each of the die, and they're going to be running that weekend.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So we can I put out that question today. I just ran down the list of just the 2019, and I put at the end, who's next from where? Because that seems to be the direction. Someone's getting signed. Sari got signed from NXT from NXT and WWE. AEW is trying to extend into the Joshi because of Kenny Omega and his pull.
Yes.
Whether that's going into the Tokyo Joshi through DDT, which he has roots for, makes sense. But then why are these wrestlers, such as B. Priestley and Riho, ending up in Stardom? What's the connection? Is there a connection? Are they trying to cross-promote? Well, Rossi sees these giant companies wanting to expand in Japan or have some connection in Japan. He needs some connection too. And he needs the talent to justify a connection. Hey, you got Hikaru Shida, you got Riho, you got B. Priestley. Well, we got Momo Watanabe, we got Hana Kimura, we got Julia kind of situations.
Right.
I think Hazuki coming up. Yeah, I got Hazuki as one of those top people. So, yeah, I think he wants to make All Japan Women. He wants to have that resurgence in the scene. And you need wrestlers to do that. You need the draws. You need you and myself on my own podcast, just the one that recently came out. Hana Kimura is the business mover. She drives the business right now. He needs people like Hana Kimura.
Yeah, I'll take it a step further, and I think to your point about Joshi kind of being stretched so thin with so many promotions, again, I liken this to Vince buying up the territories. Right? He didn't go in and start buying territories. He went in and started poaching talent. And then
hold on. Let me just cut you off. So, just to be clear, Vince McMahon didn't poach from multiple territories. He poached from one or two in particular all at once. Right? He went into the AWA and poached Hogan, Michaels, just half their roster all at once, and he pulled dirty tricks to do it. Japan's a different animal because everyone's so loyal, right? There's a loyalty to it all. There's a family element to it all.
There's a respect factor.
Right. So Julia leaving Ice Ribbon or asking for a release and just mere hours later showing up in a Stardom ring is a big deal.
It's a big deal.
It's not the same thing.
No, and I'm not saying it's the same. I'm saying when you look at it, where I wouldn't be surprised to see this go is Rossi again, and he's older, right? If he's not in his 70s, he's damn near close. He doesn't have a lot of time left. And
what's his booking Stardom at the very least?
Yeah, right. Exactly right. But he's looking for a way of cementing his and again, because he's had a lot of failures along the way before Stardom, and a lot of controversies that come along with that. But he needs to cement his legacy in a sense before he goes, and in using the phrase "striking while the iron is hot," because I got a wrinkle that I'm going to add to this later in the show. To be able to cherry pick talent to solidify Stardom as being the premier Joshi promotion in Japan, and then looking globally, right, through their streaming service and through their partnerships within the UK, and this kind of unspoken as of right now bond with AEW, with some of the talent share that they do, and Brandy being there and all these little things. Is it that he's setting himself up to make a move to take Stardom global, right? And when I say global, I mean, we see them in the States more than once every 4 years. Now, they're certainly not going to be there every year. They just don't have the funds for it right now. But over the next 3 to 5 years, are we going to see more of an impact from Stardom globally than just being a Joshi type of promotion? To that point, we also got some rumors and speculations that NXT, or I should say WWE Japan, has some momentum behind it, right? And whether that's them working with, and I have to stop and give a lot of credit to the RedLeaf Retrocast Discord. If you're not part of that and you're a Joshi fan, you really need to get in on those conversations, because again, Mad Max, our friend Maxwell, as well as Niagara Driver, there's Pete Davies makes his way in there from time to time. We've got Jay from the Smack It Down podcast as well, with input. JD's always throwing his inside out, me as well. There's just a lot of good talk in there about a lot of what we're hearing, across the Pacific. But really, if WWE is going to extend themselves into Japan, which is a risky venture for them, and they're going to work with Sendai Girls because Mako's there, and they're going to work with either setting up their own promotion or setting up a dojo, or running NXT house shows out of there. They're going to have a presence in Japan. Are all these moves by Rossi a way of securing his position in Japan as being one to compete with the WWEs of the world once they make their impact there?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a maneuver. You got to see how the big players are moving. If we look at WWE with Mako Satomura's connection, right? That should be pretty obvious. Ever since the Mae Young Classic, and Triple H brought Mako in to be a part of that, and how much talent's been poached by WWE over the last few years.
Right.
Like, holy crap. It is devastated promotions all around the world. No one can deny that.
No, I mean, just look at the UK scene right now. Like, it's not dead, but it sure as hell isn't better than it was, right?
Right. No, it went from a flourishing scene to a very, not mediocre, but you can see it downtrending, and it's not picking up.
Right.
There's already heavy rumors that ICW, one of the biggest promotions in Europe, in Scotland, is closing down.
Yeah, it's like outside of OTT, and some of the South Side or wrestling promotions. It seems like a lot of places are starting to go out of business or are hemorrhaging money a little bit. Aren't getting the promises of talent showing up because of WWE commitments, things like that. It's very reminiscent of what the American independent scene was 2002 through 2006, right? Like, until you build some stars, until you have a new crop coming up that doesn't get poached right away because they've established their stars and they're not into talent acquisition. WWE isn't into talent acquisition in the UK. They're going to suffer a little bit before there's going to be a little bit of a dark age before they can kind of have the renaissance to come back.
Yeah, it's just a shame how quick it came.
Yeah. Japan's a little different.
Japan's a different animal because of that whole loyalty thing.
Yeah.
Fans in Japan don't care about WWE.
No. And there's a nationalistic pride to Japan when it comes to their wrestling. Like, there's a commitment to them of taking care of their own, in a sense. So it's a ballsy move by WWE to want to go there. However, of all the promotions right now, and this includes New Japan Pro Wrestling, they might have something in the works. It's just nothing's been announced about it. It seems like the only person making moves to kind of secure the work that the entity that they have is Rossi within Stardom by poaching talent from other Joshi promotions within Japan itself.
Sure. I think there's another move that's not really a big one, but it's just interesting. And I think that's Emi Sakura in AEW. Emi Sakura is the founder of Ice Ribbon. She's also the founder of Gato Move. Now she had her falling out with Ice Ribbon, yes.
Sure.
But she still has her connections nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
Emi Sakura has shown up in AEW multiple times now. Who's Emi Sakura's like pride pupil? Riho. Exactly. Whom is, and I went on a big Gato binge last few days, and there is some good young talent in Gato Move. Mei Sugura in particular, Crystal, who's a UK talent, I believe. Who else do I have written down here? I wrote down quite a few. Bear with me as I pull it up. Let's see. Yuna Mizumori. She's another one. Let's see. What is her name? Not Chie Koshikawa. Not Saki. We know what's the deal with that. I can't find her name right now. Nonetheless, there's at least 4 or 5 names, up and coming names in Gato Move just by itself. And then you tie that in with the Ice Ribbon history and what Emi Sakura has done. So you got WWE. Just look at this history. You got WWE going, Meiko Satomura. You got what I think AEW making connections with Emi Sakura. Those two alone, right there, are the builders of the post AJW. And who's part of AJW's past? Rossi. So you got the 3 main people building up the Joshi scene in Japan, making moves in their own way. It all ties together. I think I may be connecting false dots, but I think they're there nonetheless.
Well, I think it's important that again, you look at Rossi's influences and relationships, not just within Japan, because to your point, he's a major player. He's had his hands in a lot of pots, so to speak. And his reach within Joshi is it cannot be denied. But then you look at what the SWA is, right? And them working with a BEW out in the UK, ABC over in France, the WWS in Mexico, the Spanish Revolution Championship Wrestling promotion over in Spain, and now AEW stateside, Rise, Shimmer, we know that they've done some work with in the past. You look at the people that have come through: Tony Storm, Shayna Baszler, Mia. I'm completely blanking on her last name. Mia Yim, coming through. Tessa Blanchard, Alpha Female. We know that they have a partnership with Eve right now, with the Eve International Championship being traded back and forth between Utami and Jamie Hayter right now, and it just seems as if Fabio Apache, the luchador influences that Rossi has, because that's kind of where he did get his start.
Right.
You look at all this and you say, like, this dude has reach globally. He needs, because he's only focused on in the Joshi scene currently, he's going to need partners to be able to defend his position in Japan versus the juggernaut that is the WWE. Could we see partnerships with the likes of a New Japan Pro Wrestling in the future? I know that that's a big don't to talk about, right? Like, I know that there's a lot of, well, it's just not the way they do things and all that type of stuff, right? But if WWE comes in and they run male and female as one promotion, which it seems as if they would, it doesn't seem as if they would split it up. It seems like they would keep it that way. that's going to create a pivot or a trickle down effect to these other promotions to be able to create and realign their allegiances to be able to compete. Where do you see Stardom in the big picture of things, teaming in Japan to defend their position against WWE Japan?
Well, I've had this just long theory or fanboygasm to the whole thought of, man, if New Japan wants to expand just a little bit more, I think it would be so cool, like at a few of their major shows a year, let's say a match or two at the Dome, a specialty match, and Stardom gets in there. And lo and behold, we saw something of the sorts at the G1 Supercard.
We did, yep.
With the Oedo Tai and Hana Kimura and
little Ring of Honor stateside. Mayu's the Women of Honor champion. They're doing that super card with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Let's put them on in the dark matches on the undercard.
Right, and now with the Dome being 2 days, they're gonna need matches to fill those cards up, to keep interest. And that's where I think Stardom would come in. And there has been heavy rumors of New Japan wanting something like that, especially to counteract a possible promotion coming in with a women's division to mix with the men, because intergender is a big thing, not just in Japan, but it is growing all over the world. Right. Just in my own backyard here in New England, I see intergender matches constantly at the shows. Right. So I could see something like that happen. Definitely interconnections. He has his pockets everywhere. So whether that's bringing in talent from outside still and continue what he's doing, but he needs to draw business and draw eyes. And the only way to do that is to get hands into promotions that have more eyes. That's AEW and New Japan. Now, which one will benefit him the most? That will remain to be seen. But I think the Dome is in his backyard, and that would be a bigger priority than a TV show in the United States.
Yeah, I think I'll say local, not the best way of putting it. Staying within the country is probably it's the most savvy move, right? To be able to create a partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Well, who's going to buy tickets at the end of the day? It's not going to be us Americans.
It's not going to be us Americans. No. It's good for distribution. Stardom Dash World needs to do a couple things. One, they need to get their archives up, right? I'd take nothing away from Sonny and the work that he does or the team that he works with, but before you could go back and you could watch Io versus Mayu and you can get a sense of what Stardom used to be and what it is and compare it to what it is today.
I want to watch those Thunder Rock matches so bad. I want to see some exploding death match bat matches.
Yes, please. And it's been a little slow process getting the archives up and running on the new site. And I'm not there. I don't know what the infrastructure looks like, so I'm not going to say it's a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying that it needs to happen, because to learn about the history of a promotion is just as important as watching it in real time. That's number one. Number two, they got to secure the position within Japan by partnering with a New Japan Pro Wrestling. Even if they can't get NJPW to go to All Japan or even like a Noah, just to kind of, even on like a loose partnership, goes a long way. There's power in numbers.
Noah's already with MLW currently.
Are they?
Yes.
Yeah,
MLW is making their own. Yeah, MLW is making their own moves. They got the Crash in Mexico and Noah in Japan.
Right.
Yeah. Now the one that's not doing anything is All Japan Wrestling.
Yeah, they're not doing much. They're not
AJPW. They're struggling as much as Noah these days.
They're wading in the water. Sorry, Alex, but they're wading in the water. But they have to do something, and it's going to be interesting now that WWE's kind of knocking on the door of Japan to see, what the move and counter moves are to stay in business, right? And Rossi right now, I think above everybody else, sees the threat and isn't waiting to make the move. He saw what the UK scene was. He's got a line in with Eve. He's got a line in the UK market. And he can see what happened there, and he can say, well, I don't want that to happen to me. I'm going to go start buying up some talent to secure my roster, to get eyes on it. But then I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see over the course of the next 12 months, again, once we get through the fiscal year here, him taking a look at buying some of these smaller Joshi promotions and trying to consolidate this as much as possible. And what that's going to, and that's a shame, right? Because of how much talent that we have in Stardom. It's not going to keep the rosters. You know what I mean? It's gonna release some wrestlers.
You could always build the undercard. No matter how much you're building talent, overexposure is your greatest enemy, right?
Yeah.
And after a couple of years, you've sort of seen every combination you could possibly have, right? What's the best way to do that? You gotta have your undercard with the idea of moving up, right? And if I was to say what Stardom's greatest weakness is the undercard. How many times are we going to see a person in a match we just go, well, they're in that match, they're getting pinned. Why should I even bother watching?
Right. Ruaka's in the match. She's probably eating the pin.
Exactly.
Right.
Then how long do those people realistically stick around? 1-2 years, right? Maybe there's a couple every now and again that stick around 3-5, but they never get better.
Saya Aida has potential. And she's got some size on her size. She's super green, but Arena and Hina really gonna take off to the next level.
No, you can just take one look at them and you watch half a match.
You kind of know. You
just go, yeah, you're not going anywhere, girl.
Right. And that's a valid point. So you could flesh out that bottom side of the undercard a lot better.
Well, okay. Well, let's for a comparison so people can look at it better. Ice Ribbon. We watched basically the whole card of 992. From bottom to top, everyone looked pretty even with the prospect of going up, and then when you get to the main event, you go, now these are the people, right?
Yeah.
That's that New Japan feel.
They're your money makers.
Right. That's that New Japan feel. You go, okay, so these are the up and comers. They're going to get better, and then your star power grows. With Stardom, everyone seems to be in the mid card until they get that top shot.
Right.
It's not totally a bad thing, but you need that build. And I think that's one of Stardom's greatest weaknesses. You watch Gato move, you immediately know, now as goofy as it is, I mean, holy hell, I've never watched people fight in a classroom on a mattress. Just to put a little picture in your mind.
Right.
But man, you watch those matches and you go, okay, this person's like 12, this person's 18, this person's 25. I know who's young, I know who's coming up, and I know who's the veterans. Now, Joshi wrestlers start very young, and when they hit 25, they're the equivalent of like a 42-year-old veteran.
Yeah, right.
Unfortunately. But yeah, that's kind of the point. So whether he buys up the smaller promotions, they would have to offer something to make it worthwhile. Because it's spread so thin, who do you then decide? What promotion do you decide to get first? That's, I think, not a good prospect, and that's also why I believe he's been poaching the up and coming mid, that busting out of the mid card talent, whether that's Julia, whether that's Andrus, from these promotions. If he could have had Meike Iwata from Sendai, he would have.
He would have.
If he could have gotten Takia Saya if she wasn't retiring, he would have. Right?
If he can get Risa Sarah back.
Well, she's good where she is.
Yeah, she adds a different dynamic.
She is different, but how much hardcore does she got left in her? I don't know.
Wow, it depends. We were watching that Lego match the other night.
Jesus.
It seems as if they can live forever. That's the whole
You know
fight
what,
forever.
the hardcore wrestlers seem to outlive us all
Yeah, right.
somehow.
Yeah, Tommy Dreamer's still going
Yeah.
strong.
Yeah, well, I guess they're not bumping on their neck doing Saito suplexes all day. They're just taking a backdrop on Legos.
Yeah, right. They actually found a safer way of working through these hardcore matches. But it's but again, so it's an interesting time. And it's happened relatively quickly. We're coming out of KOPW with New Japan Pro Wrestling, where we just finished the 5-star and we're just getting into the tag league in Stardom. It seems as everything was on course for the rest of the year to kind of ride out, right? There's a lot of intrigue in Stardom. You and I have talked about, what was Hana going to do with her Wonder of Stardom, her World of Stardom Championship a challenge coming out of the 5-star. Where does Jungle and Kiona play within, or Jungle and Konami play within the tag league? What can we expect from Hazuki? Is there anything to expect from Hazuki before the end of the year? Because she's kind of been quiet since losing the not the SWA, the high speed title. Riho's there. They haven't done anything with Miyagi yet. Is the tag league really where she's going to begin to supplant herself as being a force within Stardom? There's a lot of questions that was enough for me to ride out the rest of the year and be perfectly fine with how the rest of the year plays out. But in the course of 24 hours, we have Julia signing with Stardom.
Julia has been that big kickstart into the Joshi scene.
Yeah, which is a huge move, again, for all the reasons that we talked about. We have rumblings of New Japan, or excuse me, of WWE Japan picking up. Again, I'm most intrigued with Oz Academy and where they end up in this whole thing. Can they stay neutral? Do they follow suit with Sendai Girls and kind of
Well, I'm seeing a
navigate
lot of the Oz Academy talent now funneling into Ice Ribbon more full time.
right?
The younger ones.
But where does Ice Ribbon fall in this? Are they going to stay as a single promotion? Are they ultimately going to have to pick a side and either be jumped? Like, are we at the point? And I don't think we are, but I think we're headed this direction where it's going to be either WWE Japan or it's going to be Stardom, right? Like on the Joshi scene. Like, I think we're headed in those directions, and that might be a little me overstepping the bounds a little bit, reactionary, based off of the events of the last couple days. But really, when you look at the landscape of Japan and the landscape of Joshi wrestling, you don't have. There's a reason that Rossi's making these moves, right? This is all by design. Like you said at the beginning, he's a cutthroat businessman, right? He makes decisions.
Unethical too. Can't forget about that part.
Certainly unethical, right? There are plenty of things that he has done that has screwed up. Again, it's one of the dichotomies of being a Stardom fan. Like, you kind of have to root for the wrestlers and kind of hate the management side. You know what I mean? And how much do they know versus how much do they not know, and how much are they there's that back and forth with it. And there's a balance to figuring that side of it out.
Well, Manami Toyota definitely had words for Rossi on Twitter. Holy shit.
Yeah, right, for real. And
she's
Aja
already
Kong.
pissed off enough. B. Priestley's using her finishing move.
You got her coming after Ross. We know the back and forth with him and Aja. The problems that Stardom had in the early 2010s, mid 2010s, with everything that kind of happened there with some of the shoot fight scenarios that played out at events.
With Yoshiko and whatnot.
Yeah. So certainly he is not known as a good man. You know what I mean? But and when I say but, I mean, like, from a business side, he's trying to secure his property right now, like in this moment. And again, the question is why? And it's because there is WWE Japan coming in. Is Stardom looking globally? Are they looking to partner with AEW? Are they looking to partner with New Japan Pro Wrestling? Right? We have 2 days of Wrestle Kingdom coming up. To your point, are we going to see Joshi be exemplified on the biggest stage of them all in Japan, right? January 4th, right? Not just the shows that they run.
Well, here, let me put it this way. How long have you been watching Stardom?
I've been watching since like 2014, but talking about it probably 2 years.
Okay. So let's say 4 years.
Okay.
Fair enough.
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't watching every show until about, a year and a half ago. But I was popping in, about the same time you were, ever since Stardom World became a thing.
Yeah.
So, been watching X amount of time. I started watching Ice Ribbon late last year. Got to a move very recently. Sendai Girls on and off. You put it all together. You just put these main promotions in perspective over the last few years. You go, okay, what has actually changed? Because with WWE or AEW or MLW, any promotion in the West, WXW Progress, what has all of those done that the Joshi promotions have not? And that's the prospect of expansion, right?
Yep.
Bringing in fresh new talent, trying to get a TV deal, starting a streaming service, whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
What is the only Joshi promotion out there that has done anything to the prospect of trying to enlarge themselves?
Stardom. Yep.
That's it. They got a streaming service. They get fresh new talent. They don't just rely on developing their own. They struck the deal with ROH. They're striking deals with promotions all over the world, whether that's Eve in Mexico. What has Ice Ribbon done? What has Sendai done? They're the same promotion with no streaming service, no access. They still run the same venues over and over again, year after year. Sometimes they're bigger ones more than once because the other ones don't draw anymore. All they can do is try to get it's either strike deals with other Joshi promotions so they can have fresh talent because they can't develop theirs fast enough. You see a pattern here?
I do.
Yeah. That's the point. Stardom's the only one making moves to try to better themselves. I think Niagara in the chat said it best. He goes, when Emi Sakura's Gato move performing in classrooms on YouTube is outstreaming and outperforming you in the international scale, and they've existed for like 6 months on YouTube, you're doing something wrong.
Right.
And that's 90% of the Joshi scene.
Right. Yeah, it's a fair observation, right? Which then again leads to the question if WWE is going to move in on the Japanese market and they're going to eat up. I'm going to use Sendai Girls because it seems like the easiest access point, right? Based off the relationships between Mako and Triple H and Vince McMahon and all that type of stuff. There needs to be a counter, whether it be proactive or reactive from Stardom, from New Japan, maybe All Japan, with regards to teaming up to be able to battle against, the globalization of WWE. Where do you see it headed?
WWE itself?
Well,
just Japan,
just the Japanese wrestling scene altogether. I mean, we know what the UK looks like now. It's kind of underwater a little bit. We know what the American independents were in 2010. Do you think that the Japanese wrestling market is going to be able to pivot enough, learn from the mistakes of the others to be able to keep themselves above water, or do you think that we're going to see a breakdown in the infrastructure of both Joshi and Japanese wrestling moving forward?
I mean, if WWE comes in, the most they can do is throw money around, right?
Sure. Yeah.
The difference is
Maya's headed there, guaranteed.
Who?
Maya.
Oh.
The A's and the U's, bro. I'm telling you.
Yeah. The difference between WWE wanting to expand in the UK and Japan is not even apples to apples, as my mom would say. They're not the same thing. Japan's culturally just so different. The wrestling scene is still treated with such respect. And there's so much loyalty into promotions. Dragon Gate is the one outside Tokyo. That is their thing. If you live outside Tokyo, you're a Dragon Gate fan. If you're an old school fan that just wants straight wrestling, you're an all Japan wrestling fan. All Japan Pro Wrestling. If you want the hard striking with weight limits being pseudo competitive, then you're a Noah fan, but not really anybody's a Noah fan that much these days. Anyways, then if you want the more stories but not tag team wrestling, then you watch New Japan. Right? Everybody's got their clique in their fandom. WWE comes in, they see it as a novelty, much like an NFL game coming to London. Right?
Sure.
It's not going to be their main thing, but damn it, I'm going to go see this cluster mess. And let's face it, WWE doesn't book for a Japanese audience. At all. They don't know how.
They don't know how.
They've had Japanese talent time and time again, and they fail every time. What do they always become? They always become the foreign heel or a comedy act. And the foreign heel fails. So, let's say the rumor turns out to be true. They buy Sendai and they buy Big Japan Wrestling. What is WWE going to do with a deathmatch promotion?
I saw that in the Discord. I want to say it was Niagara who brought it up. I don't know. I mean, the Sendai is easy, right? Because you're just infiltrating talent into the machine that is WWE. But from Big Japan, I cannot for the life of me believe that Big Japan will be what it is. They're probably going to excuse me. They're probably going to split the talent up and the people that aren't crazy.
It's okay. Whenever I talk about WWE too, I start to die a little inside.
You get a little sick. Yeah, you get a little sick.
Is it throw up from the inside out? I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see what kind of moves, partnerships, acquisitions.
Here's something more realistic I could see happening.
Okay, let me hear it.
I could see Sendai being a real thing, right? They buy it. Okay. Sendai hasn't made huge strides in a long time.
Nope.
They've lost talent. The talent's gotten old. They haven't developed talent fast enough, etc., etc. Whether WWE buys a male promotion, that remains to be seen. What I do see happening is they open up a dojo, a training center, a performance center, if you will, and they have the veterans from like Big Japan or the roster from Sendai come in and they learn to work a style, and then they recruit young talent. And it's a slow thing, much like how they developed NXT at first in the US. It didn't happen overnight. They had to develop a host of things and transfer things from OVW and go from there. That's the only prospect I see happening, to be on a realistic term.
Let's say WWE has no. Let's say that the rumors aren't true, and that they're not moving into Japan as quickly as we think they are.
Good. It's a stupid decision for them, anyways.
Right.
And it would ruin my fandom. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, get the hell out of here. I like it just the way it is. God damn it.
I don't need no contest DQ finishes and cage matches.
It's art, bro.
Keep that out of my Japan.
It's performance art. Let's say they're not. Let's say that the timeline's not right. Right. What do you think Rossi's doing with all these moves? Is it just to solidify his roster to make it the premier Joshi spot? Is it global expansion? Is it to create viability to be able to partner with the New Japans, the AEWs of the world to expand their imprint globally? Or is it just a way of knowing that the Julias, the Miyagis, the Jamie Hayters, the B. Priestley, does he just have that much of an eye for talent to better his promotion overall?
Well, like I said at the top of the cast, I think the overall goal is to make Stardom the rekindling of the All Japan women, right? He wants the draw back. What he learned in, what he wants He wants the rabid fan base, the big draws, and then with all the moves he's done, even to date, international presence, whether that's online or the occasional trip to the UK or the United States, maybe more often, because he's tried that before. He's not given up. I think that's the goal.
The wide world of Stardom news continues, ladies and gentlemen. We're in a wait and see pattern.
I got a question for you before we head out.
Sure.
Who's the next talent to be ripped up by Rossi, the cutthroat businessman? So I got a name in mind.
You got a name in? Is it the one you use in the Discord? Because I won't steal that one from you.
Don't steal mine.
It's an interesting one because
It'll be a cutthroat podcast.
Yeah, no, right? No particular angle. The Rossi Agawa of podcasting, JPQ. No, I don't want to be associated with that. I don't know. It's a tough one. I would tell you that if we're talking about okay, so what niche hasn't he hasn't he gone over yet, right? And that's kind of it's kind of where I stand with it. Like,
which promotion hasn't he burned a bridge down yet?
Yeah, it's kind of right. Where can he stand to piss some people off a little bit more? That's an interesting one. Let's start with. Let me think about that for like half a second. What's yours before I
Reika Saki.
Reika. Okay, that's a good one.
She's a freelancer. I think she's in Freedom One. I think that's the promotion she kind of frequents. She's basically by herself to begin with, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, she's Wrestle One. She came from Wrestle One. She's 27. She's a talent. She's a unique talent. No one's like her. I think it's pretty easy.
Yeah, that's a good name.
Or AEW gets her.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if I have a firm answer to this. Reason being is really what you're kind of looking for is the next. Like you would need somebody that kind of fits the narrative of the next up and comer, right? And a lot like with Ice Ribbon, like I really like Oz Academy's undercard, although I can't say any of their names. However, none of them are in the main event picture, right? Like Oz Academy.
Sayuri's up and coming, but she's still really green.
She's really green. But like, I mean, just you look at Oz Academy, for example, right? Because it's not one that they've really poached a lot of talent from. But like Ozaki's their champion. You know what I mean? Mission K4 is their tag team champion. Like they're not like all those women are in their 40s, if not 50s. You know,
Royo Matsumoto, could she come back to Stardom?
She could, but where would she fit in? You know what I mean?
Well, there's a certain Death Yamasan she frequently tags with.
That's a good point. But maybe
it's not like she doesn't know anybody there.
You could do a like a Kaho Kabayashi because she kind of has that Kagetsu vibe. You know, sure. Like her and they were both in what was it 4K? Why am I blanking on the name? I just said it. Mission K4 together, like that. Maybe that is somewhere that they go. You know,
there's a host of talent in Wave.
Yeah.
They're mostly in their late 20s, early 30s, but there's a few young up and comers in there, for sure. Wave is something that nobody talks about, at least in my neck of the woods, in my little area of the internets that I peruse. No one talks about Wave. Seedling's another one out there, but Takumi Iroha is the ace of Seedling and Marvelous. So I don't see her going anywhere unless she gets complacent. Right?
Yeah.
That's the other thing. How long have they been on top? How long have they just been there, right? because if you look at histories of wrestlers, when they're on top for a long time, and like no one's seeming to come up, no one's stepping up, or you face the one person over and over again, that's when that complacency and wanting to do more starts taking place.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there was a Stardom Cross Marvelous event last year with Mayu Iwatani and Takumi Iroha. So it's these things aren't not on purpose. They all have a reason to them.
Is there anybody in Diana worth talking about now that Sari's not there anymore? Like, is there anybody coming up through there? Like, I know Sari's leaving. I know that like Tomoko Watanabe's still there. Kararu Ito is still there. Aja Kong fancies Diana every once in a while. But like, is Madeline a name that people talk about? Like, she's super young, but she was trained by Emi. She was trained by Kyoko. Could she be somebody that's looked at in the future? Coming up, she's as green as they come. You know what I mean? Like, she's not anything, but given the lineage of her training, is that somebody that we'll start to see kind of make a name for herself over time? It's so tough to say, right? Like, I don't know if there's anybody really that I would sit here and feel, confident in.
How old are some of these people? Let's see.
They're young, bro. Like, they're all. I mean, you got Fujimoto. I mean, she's 36. She's on the I call it the decline, but she just had a banger of a match with Sari. But is she someone that could make her way in?
No. She's that type of person who's a lifer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she's a nice point. And she comes from the school of Emi Sakura. So, but again,
she comes from the school of Manami Toyota.
Yeah, true. Yeah, her, Emi, Nene, Takahashi. Again, she comes from that first school of ice ripping.
That. She's 36. Right. She's got no reason to leave at this point.
That's a good point. That's a fair point.
Now, Maya Yukihi, that's a wild card. Being the ace of the promotion currently, everything's revolving around her. No challenger other than Tsukasa. Right. None. Like, Ice Ribbon's got to rebuild heavily. Luckily, they got some talent there that they can. Tsukushi, Maiko Ozaki, whom I'm very high on, who's not going anywhere. Meiko Iwata over in Sendai, who's also not doing much, which is these are the ones you got to look out for. Are the ones on the up and up that seem to be stuck in the undercard.
Do you think there's like the only place that we really haven't added anybody to, and I guess you can make the case for Hana, but they kind of groomed her over the course of the year. But do you think supplanting anybody like Arisa Nakajima in from Seedling into Stardom's main event picture right off the bat? Like, maybe when they get to the draft next year, she kind of comes in and vies like right off the bat for leadership role. Like, is there a place for Arisa Nakajima in Stardom over the next 12 to 18 months?
Let's see. I don't know. Does she have any titles currently?
That's a great question. She's the Beyond the Sea champion for Seedling.
Yeah. So I don't think so. She's in that same position as Maya Yukihi.
I don't know. I'm going to call it Seedling. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you could do my little shtick where if there's more than one consonant, you just keep pronouncing it.
It's true. That's a good way of looking at it.
Nakajima, Iroha, Yukihi. These three are the powerhouses. I don't see Hashimoto going anywhere other than next to Meiko Satomura's side.
Yeah, to be honest, Takumi Iroha is a good name because she was trained by Fuka and she's still on the younger side. That could be, and her promotion is what? Marvelous, right?
Yes, it's Marvelous.
Yeah. So she's there. That could be an interesting. Again, she brings a different type of style. You know, she's kind of got that kendo background. She has that sweet power bomb that she does. The what do they call it? The running three or something.
Yeah.
You know, she's got a triangle choke. She's got some like that would be a nice mix up for Konami. You know, because the kendo versus submission based Konami would be an interesting back and forth between the two. And then the fact that you have Fuka as her trainer as she was coming up, you know, there might be a relationship there worth exploring a little bit. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to say Takumi Iroha, a little on the older side again. It's crazy to say at 26 years old, but
No, that's one of those ages you got to look for.
Yeah, I think that might be a good get for Stardom over time.
There you go.
There
so
you
got
go.
Iroha. I have Rikisaki.
Yeah, I like yours better than mine, but I usually do in that sense. But yeah, so again, a lot of information over the last couple days. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. It'll be interesting to see if and when the WWE Japan news breaks. It'll be interesting to see where the pivots are made with New Japan Pro Wrestling, where Stardom's headed, what's going to happen, you know, to the scene overall. Is it going to change at all? Right? Again, you know, the thing about Japan culturally is that, you know, they take pride in their own. You know what I mean? It's why when Gaijins come over, they're usually booed. There's a reason there's a Bullet Club. There's a reason why there's Top Gaijin in Stardom. You know, they're easy heels. Jay White and everything that he's doing, being a Kiwi over from New Zealand. It'll be an interesting ride as we get started. We're only at the very, very beginning of it. So I think the more information that comes out, JD, the more I'm going to invite you on to kind of continue these conversations, because in the wide world of Stardom, you know, the news changes with the seasons.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. Where can people find you?
You can find me on the YouTube, RedLeaf Retrocast, all your favorite podcasting outlets. We got gaming, wrestling, anime, so all the nerd things outside of comic books, basically.
Nice.
If you like hearing my voice ramble, then I'm your guy.
Yeah, JD, I will tell you this: if you're an anime fan, if you're a retro gaming fan, definitely worth checking out the podcast. But if you're a wrestling fan, every 2 weeks, JD takes you around the world, focusing on the promotions that you may not know either A, exist, or B, know that they're putting on quality matches. And he takes the time, he puts the burden on himself to watch as much wrestling as possible.
It's not a burden, it's fun.
It's fun, god damn it. Wrestling is supposed to be fun. But no, he takes on the MLWs, the Ice Ribbons, the Joshi scene, the UK scene, WXW, AEW, WWE, you know, you name it, he's probably watching it every 2 weeks. So if you're not subscribed to the RedLeaf Retrocast yet, make sure that you do. For me, hey, at bigpawsonapup on Twitter, as well as at NPA Podcast. Join the conversation if you're a Stardom fan, if you're interested in Stardom. Subscribe to the podcast. We're going to continue talking about these developments as they come up. If you're a general wrestling fan, subscribe to the podcast, because every week on No Particular Angle, you don't know what you're going to hear. You don't know what you're going to find, and it may be something that might have you invest in something that you didn't know existed before. So with that, I'd like to thank JD for the time coming on. We will see you next week. Later, everybody.